I've run passive defense for the Dead Rising Deluxe Remake, okay? When it was I cited that, oh, they race swapped. One of the villains in the game, they went from an Asian dude to a white dude. It's like, okay, we've seen one screenshot, maybe, potentially, but you know what? Hey, if anything else happens, we'll sound the alarm, we'll raise the red flag, and we'll call them to task, because Capcom, all things considered, when it comes to their remakes, they have a pretty good track record. Okay, think whatever you want about the quality of all the Resident Evil remakes, okay? 2 was beloved, 3 was They've done so many of 1, I can't even specifically point to, but last year with Resident Evil 4, a lot of people loved that game, okay? They updated it in many different forms and fashions, but they stayed true to the source material. So for them to just go ahead and remake another one of their beloved franchises, I was thinking, hey, you know what? There's a good chance that they're going to do right by this. And then, okay, for as much goodwill as I was going to give them on their track record of holding true to the source material, you also got to realize that Capcom is going to Capcom. And while they've been generally good with their games, Dragon's Dogma 2, Street Fighter 6, Devil May Cry 5, there's something that they have had a problem with, okay? Something that has nagged them for a while, and that's their need to over-monetize their products, which is leading to their 41% drop off year over year, which we just touched on. So yeah, Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster will include in-game purchases. It's going to be festooned with microtransactions because Capcom just can't help themselves. And while that was probably going to be something that was always going to have to rear its ugly head, that was always something that we were going to have to address, I guess it could be forgivable as long as they aren't too pervasive. Because, yeah, Devil May Cry 5 does have microtransactions, but you can play through that entire game without even having to open up the store. There's no overly grindy sections where you have to get enough blue and red coins. I forget what they're called. I need to buy the game. I've been very enticed to pick up Devil May Cry 5. It's just after seeing this news, not so much anymore. I don't want to support them, especially in the light of this, but they can do good. It's just, yeah, also look at the overly priced and overly chopped up content for Street Fighter 6's character packs. Okay, you can buy the character for an exuberant price, and then you can buy the different costumes for laughable prices. Not as bad as Mortal Kombat 1, which the more I see about that game, the more I'm reminded how great MK9 was and where the hell we're at this point in time. But anyways, yeah, you could have just plugged your nose, and if the game was acceptable, it would have been all fine and dandy. But then, just like 2023's Resident Evil 4, Capcom ring the changes with Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster to remove controversial and outdated gameplay mechanics. But here's the thing, when it came to Resident Evil 4's remake, they gave you the options of the classic controls. They changed some things for the better without altering the core gameplay, and the changes that they did make were not done to be offensive at all. Like, I've listened to a couple of different breakdowns on it, and yeah, people overwhelmingly love the game and don't have any critiques, and it's even the people who would be likely to point out any woke changes that were made. That was never an accusation laid at the feet. But unfortunately, we can't say that anymore about Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. Let's continue. Revisiting classic titles with a modern lens has become a popular trend in the video game industry. It's often led to remakes and remasters of old games to give them new appeal. Capcom's upcoming Deluxe Remaster of Dead Rising, there you go, is the latest example of that approach. What are we talking about? The new change in the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster that's been reported is the removal of the erotica photo mechanic. In the 2006 original, players could earn prestige points by taking photos of suggestive images of female characters. These points were often awarded for capturing images of women's cleavage, underwear, and other revealing angles. Now, okay, here's the thing. It's a cheeky, pun somewhat intended mechanic from the game. Should you include it in the remake? Of course, if you're going to be doing a remake, that's one thing. But if you're marketing this as a remaster, definitely, because you're just updating the visuals, updating the mechanics. But if you have good reason, if you replace it with a different mechanic, if those elements are still there in some form or fashion because you think that it's clunky, I think that it's a little bit outdated, doesn't quite flow in the design that you have, I could understand. And of course, I would give you a couple of points, mostly because you take a look at, this is a Reddit post we're relying on, so yes, we need buckets of salt in order to take this at face value. Also, in the Famitsu article, which, yeah, of course, and this information is coming out of a translated article. The article has Larry Chiang. That's the race-swapped villain that's in there. Yeah, so that's a point in the favor of he's still Chinese. So yeah, like I said, it could just be lighting. It could just be, updated graphics. He's not quite as big fat Asian baby looking as he was back in 2006 because 18 years makes for quite a big visual leap. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But when it comes to the erotica photo mechanic, they've elucidated on this. Capcom explains why they removed rewarding players for erotic photographs in a Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. Now, like I've said before, I'm not here to promote the gooning. I'm not here to say that all games just need a bunch of big titty women out there, and we just need to have a return to all good old-fashioned values. That's not me at all whatsoever. I'm just saying, if you guys are going to be going in and removing what's problematic today, problematic today ends up expanding in the future to getting rid of other mechanics that otherwise would seem benign right now, but in order to appeal to the modern audience, you start to remove other things and things become way too sanitized. So yeah, well, it's a mechanic that I might not have liked back in the day. I might not have engaged with the original. Hell, I didn't even play the original. The most exposure I have with the Dead Rising franchise is Dead Rising 2. I played it for a little while. I thought it was reasonably fun. I just wasn't a big fan of the timed mechanic. I thought that was silly. A lot of people did, and a lot of people like the original for having same mechanics. But even still, there was a lot of excitement around this remaster because a lot of people like this franchise, or at least the first couple of installments. Oh, remember the third helped launch the Xbox One? Well, I bet you Microsoft wants to forget the launch of the Xbox One. Developer and publisher Capcom issued a statement explaining why they removed rewarding players for erotic photographs in Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. And here's where things get a little complicated. As reported in Famitsu by the player character Frank West is able to earn prestige points by taking photos in the game. Famitsu notes, the more highly rated the photos, the more PP you will get. See PP, but taking pictures of cleavage. Get it? These prestige points can be used to level up West and increase the stats, including attack, strength, stamina, item stock. It also appears you can purchase skills with the points as well. In the original game, players were awarded PP by taking erotic photos of various female characters in the game, including photos of bare stomachs, panty shots, and more. And see, yeah, it's a little bit pervy, but you're a photographer, and Capcom used to have a sense of humor. As translating the Famitsu notes, the work does not have the evolution point erotica that existed in the original version. Capcom issued a statement to VG247 explaining their decision. It stated, when developing Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, we tried our best to create a game that would please returning core fans and appeal to new players alike. As development progressed, we inevitably discovered that we couldn't include everything from the original game, and this is where my support for the game dies. Specifically addressing the points awarded for erotic photographs, Capcom said, in the case of erotica points system, this was something we discussed at length and decided to remove, not so much as a response to the changing cultural climate, but because we felt the cultural climate. No, there is no need to have a reward points system on this basis. Yeah, but there was no need for it back in 2006, but you included it because you knew it was a joke, it was a gag, it was tongue-in-cheek, because you were taking pictures of cheeks. You can't say statements like, we didn't make this change in response to the cultural climate, when it's obvious you made the change for the cultural climate because you're trying to appeal to old players and new. Like I said, I had no idea about the system because I didn't play the original. How many people are also like that? How many people would be excited about this game where, hey, I go into a mall and I can mow down a bunch of zombies in gruesome and hilarious ways, but oh man, taking upskirt pictures, that's where I cross the line. Don't you dare do that. Who are you trying to appeal to with these changes? How did you weigh on a totality the number of people that this change would appeal to, as opposed to the amount of people that would be upset by this decision? And like I said before, it's not really about removing this, it's about what this means going forward, because you never bend the knee to the mob, because they will never stop. It is never enough for them. The company added, additionally, when considering Frank's situation, is not appropriate reward for survival and not a skill requirement of a journalist trying to stay alive for the next 72 hours during a zombie apocalypse. But it was back in 2006, right? However, players will still have the right to choose their picture subjects freely, and even though they won't receive points, it is up to them to decide what photos they will take to represent their journey, it concluded. So you're getting rid of an entire mechanic, an entire category for leveling up. Now, there's another game that I have been very vocal of my defense of, and there have been some people trying to say, that was a woke change in regards to it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Okay, if you're familiar with the game and the story there within, you have the Nibelheim flashback where young Cloud goes back to his hometown and he, goes through his family home, the general store, and of course, the girl next door's place, Tifa. Tifa Lockhart's place, nobody's home, but he goes upstairs in the remake, and in the original, he goes through her drawers, goes through her wares, if you're so inclined to, plays the piano in her room, but then also takes a look at her orthopedic underwear. But in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, he also goes into her house, goes into her room, plays on the piano if you're so inclined to, and then also goes through her drawers but doesn't hold up her orthopedic underwear. That means that the game went woke, but all the dialogue is still there. Okay, actually more when it comes to chastising Cloud for going through somebody else's drawers, because that's always been weird. That adds more context that, hey, that's not really something that Cloud would do, because Cloud's kind of a shy guy, and why is he so bouncy and jumpy and so enthusiastic on that trip? Gee, that doesn't seem anything like Cloud. Then when he's getting chastised in real time, you almost see the mask slip a little bit, and that shy kid comes out a little bit. Nothing weird to see about that at all whatsoever. It's not like they're trying to tell a more nuanced overarching story, not getting into any specific spoilers or anything like that. That's not what's going on in Dead Rising. You're just getting rid of something to appeal to a modern audience. And that's the big difference here. And that's why I will continue to support Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in all of its forms, because that is a tremendous game. And that's why things like this, decisions like this, conscious decisions like this, I can't support this remaster. And if Capcom continues to make dumb decisions like this, rewriting history, I can't support them. Stop making dumb decisions. Stop making dumb decisions as a company that appeals to absolutely nobody, and that will only end up hurting your overall bottom line. Simple as that, really. There's money to be made in the gaming industry. Take a look at the thriving AA and indie space. It's everywhere. People want good gaming experiences. Just provide them that. You did it really well for a long time, but now you're trying to get in on the tail end of a dying trend. Very strange tactic, Capcom. Very strange indeed. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.